Welcome back to the second part, which is community development part 2. So in this one, we're going to be looking at a few of the continuing themes of community development, but we're going to be looking at the levels of participation, which is really interesting to understand, and then hopefully you'll understand then how governments really get the most participation out of people, but also the most buy-in. And you can look at how Kennedy either does this very well or very poorly at times with some of the decisions that we make here as well. But understanding this will then allow you to go potentially further down the track when you start your own careers, if you're in health promotion or community development, town design, community design, whatever it is, that you'll have this understanding, right, we need to have people involved for it to be successful. Otherwise, if you just tell people to do something, they don't want to do it. Or they will do it, but they're going to do it pretty poorly. Okay, and the next bit we're going to look at is the relationship between participation and empowerment. And this is a really complex relationship that they have there. And there's a couple of parts as we look at individuals and community. So we'll have a look at that one a bit closer when we get up to it. The Jakarta Declaration is most likely going to be something that we cover once, probably in week 3. Heading into either after I get back, but also maybe after the assignment. So we'll play that one by ear. So let's have a look. Let's start with an impromptu question. What would make you want to get involved or develop in the development of your community? Would you like to see your community improve? And if you do, what are the factors? What could you do, or what's going to make that possible for you to achieve that? So have a bit of a think, and then I'm going to discuss a few of the options, the common responses from my comprehensive survey I did of year 11s last year. So here's some of the responses that we did get. Was number 1, having time. If you want to improve your community, but you don't have time to improve your community, it's not going to happen. All right, so if you've got the time, and this is where you usually see, especially in terms of volunteers, people that are retired or semi-retired, or people that are working a lot less hours or have more time to spare, they're the ones that want to get involved because they have the time to do it. Whereas if you ask a mother of 3, a single mother of 3 who's working 2 jobs and really grinding herself into the ground to provide for her family, if you want to improve the community development, it's probably going to be low on her priority list just because she's got to facilitate and do so much else with her time, and that's not going to be a priority for her. If you see a need for improvement, so if you're just so passionate, I need this to change, we need this to happen in our community, we need to address the disadvantage, we need to get the homeless into their own homes and back into working and improving the community. If you're someone who's super passionate about this, chances are you're going to allocate time. You're going to make the time for you to get involved and then find something to do and help make that change. Okay, so passion and the need for improvement is going to really be there. If you can see that the need's really critical, oh, this is really going terrible, all right, and you might even see this at Kennedy. Someone should write a letter about perhaps the inequality in the dress, which happened. All right, so we now have girls who have the option to wear those beautiful long pants. Guys, you can't wear skirts yet, but I'm sure if you really pushed it, then equality, who knows. But things like that, if there's a need for improvement, then people get passionate about it. They want to be involved and they try to develop the community to enhance it, because no one wants to see a community go backwards and get worse and worse. So when you see the need for improvement, and in this particular one we're talking about health, okay, if you see a community that's really struggling with their health, perhaps high rates of alcohol abuse or domestic violence in certain pockets within Perth or other suburbs around the place, you might see that's definitely a need for improvement because it's causing disadvantage, it's causing harm, which is affecting people's health. Therefore, they're the areas that we're going to target. Okay. The other one, common one we get is if you're directly involved in that aspect of your community. Okay. I guess if you're working in rehabilitation for people with drug abuse or drug addiction, and you see it day to day, and you can see the devastation it's causing people, and that it's affecting their health negatively, then you'll more likely want to see that change because you're affected by it day in, day out. Okay, so there's some of the critical factors on why people want to get involved and make changes. Have a think about what you would like to do if you had time and the resources available within your communities, your school community, within your suburb that you live, the Perth community, within your sporting community. Is there things that you see a need for improvement? Okay, if it's you're at a sporting club and you see a need to improve the numbers of juniors that come through, and then the way that they're treated in that club. Is it not a family-friendly club and you'd like it to be? If you're passionate about it, that's why people usually get involved in your own community. So what we're going to look at in terms of how changes happen within community development is the levels of participation. Okay, and there is 5 of these ones that we're going to look at, and basically they give you an understanding of how people within a community can get involved, but where the biggest change is likely to occur. So these are the 5 levels. Okay, and we start with the lowest level. That's going to increase the level of participation within a community. So if you think we're going to introduce a new program or a new idea, concept into a community to try and improve it, the lowest participation level is actually going to come from information. All right, and we'll go explain on each of these ones in a little bit. The second level is going to be consultation, where you're consulting with people in the community. The third one, we're going to have deciding together, where you both make a joint decision. Fourth is acting together, and this is where we're starting to get to the increased participation. This is where communities drive it rather than the external, maybe a government or a business hosting an event. If you have the individuals of the community driving it, that's where you're going to get the biggest participation. And then we'll get to the whole empowerment part once we understand all this. And the last one is level 5, which is supporting the community interest. This is driven by the community rather than the external influencers or other stakeholders. Now you'll see this beautiful link that I've done there. It's only 1:21. It's just someone discussing these levels in slightly different terms. It's worth just having a look at just to understand, and it's always a good point of reference to go back to if you need to. So I'll let you go have a look at that, and then we'll continue on. All right, so hopefully you've had a look at that video. What we're going to do is we're going to have a look at each level, but we're going to use it as in the context of an example. Now I would like you to have this example familiar. Yep, I really understand how this fits in with this particular example of traffic congestion, but I also want you to be trying to develop your own examples. Okay, so perhaps once you've gone through and we understand each of the levels and how they work, then you can apply the examples, or if you wish, you can do it as we go through each level, applying a different example so that you have a better understanding, and if it's your own example, you're more likely to remember it and it's going to stick with you, which will be really useful. Okay. So within traffic congestion, urban development is aiming to reduce the number of cars on the road and encourage bicycle use and pedestrian walkway use. Okay, we also look at trying to improve public transport and all those other factors, but this is the example we're going to look at. Let's have a look and see how the levels of participation could assist in community development in this area. Okay, so we're going to put our community development officer hat on here. You've been given a budget, let's go $10 million, just a small budget, so that you guys can try and implement some of these changes to improve the traffic congestion within a community. Okay, now we might be talking a suburb, we might be talking within Perth itself. It's up to you how you want to apply this one. So level 1 is about information. Okay, this is where the people of the community are not really involved in the decision-making and planning, rather they're just informed by it, okay, by the organisers of the intervention and what's going to happen. So the example that I've got here is government departments make all the decisions and try to improve the issue. They carry out the intervention. The government produces billboards, TV ads to inform the community of what will be taking place, like road widening. If you go live anywhere north of the river or south at the moment, freeways are a bit of a nightmare. Okay, or new traffic lights, traffic bridges on Farrington Road. They just put a new bridge over it. So these are all sort of the things you just get told these are happening. Okay. Now the issue with this level is sometimes you just get told about things, you don't get a say, right? Row 8, although there was a bit of a protest about it, basically what had happened initially in the setup was all the residents received a letter saying we're going to be starting roadworks, we're going to be building a new extension to Row Highway, it's going to go through this parkland that is right behind your house. They weren't informed about it, they were informed about it, but they weren't consulted on it. They were just told this is happening. And now you might be thinking of other situations where you're just told this is happening, you don't actually going to get a say in it. For me personally, when we bought our house in Como a few years ago, and we were then told after we moved in that we're getting underground power, which I thought was great, improved the value, removed big traffic, big pole in front of our house. But we were also told that we're going to have to pay for part of it, which is close to $10,000. Now, I'm just a lonely teacher. We don't earn that much teaching. We do pretty well, we get some holidays, but we're not loaded. So that $10,000 is going to have to come from somewhere. But that was more, I'm told, you're going to have to pay this at some point when we do this. Okay? Didn't really get a say in it, and I'll explain a little bit more about it because it was a vote, but for us buying into it, the decision was already made. That's where the level 1 comes in, not too happy about it. Level 2, consultation. So this is where the community starts to get a little bit more involved, and this is really beneficial to have involvement of the community. And you can probably understand why. Imagine if we're going to make a new change about the dress code at Kennedy. If we don't consult anyone and then we decide blue is not really everyone's colour, we're going to go to a really it's kind of like a baby poo yellow colour, and that's going to be our uniform. Not everyone's colour palette has that colour in it. Mine does actually, so I wouldn't be too against it. But you could understand how this level is going to be a bit better than this is changes happening, at least at this level, going, right, we're going to have a look at this, we're going to talk to the community and see what they are. So this one obviously involves more of the people in the community, but you usually ask for feedback and opinions about planned interventions. So obviously they go do a bit of research about it within the community, and then they come back and say, right, we'd actually like some feedback, opinions, so if we've missed anything major, we can take it on board and then make changes as we need to. Okay. They're usually offered several options before, usually offered several options and ask for their feedback, opinions about those ones, and they try and make the decision based on which one's going to be suitable for the organisers, but also for the public or the community. Okay. The downside of this is that feedback may or may not actually be considered. Oh, that's very nice. I'm glad that you told us that you don't like the baby poo coloured uniforms, but we're going to go with it anyway. All right, so they have the say in it, but ultimately it's still going to be the organisers' final decision on that matter. Now, if we go back to the traffic congestion example, the one we've got here is you might see the government producing TV ads and billboards to offer a variety of solutions options and how you can reduce traffic congestion. And they open this up to council forum meetings where people can attend and they can raise and give their feedback. They might fill in surveys online. That allows the community members to give their thoughts and opinions. Now, if it's overwhelmingly in favour or against something, they're more likely to take it into consideration. But it's kind of a 50-50 split, then usually they're just going to make their own decision. But they do it so that they can prevent a catastrophe. Not everyone wants the baby poo coloured uniforms. So if they did do that, and then it was the 90% of the school kids said, no, we don't want to wear that colour, then you'd hope that they would take that into consideration. So that's level 2, consultation. Level 3, deciding together. With this level, we start to see the community members are more involved. Okay, they get a say in the decision-making process. Okay, organisers of the intervention will meet regularly with the members of the community that they're trying to improve. And it's usually they have representation from the community to come sit down with the organisers, all right, and they'll have a discussion, they'll have a vote, they'll try and work through some of the issues before final decisions are made in this. Now, actually I'll get to my example in a little bit, but what happens is they will discuss it, they will try and come to a resolution that's going to be suitable for both parties, but ultimately organisers of the intervention still have to put the plan into action, okay? So the community is involved and they shape the idea, the project, the program, the intervention, but then ultimately organisers are the one that have to go execute it, which still allows a little bit of change and flexibility, because they might still see a need to change things to be more suitable for budgets, for I guess ease of use, whatever it is. Now, looking at the example that we've got here for traffic congestion, so this could be the government departments work with members of the community to come up with a plan to reduce traffic. They might have a vote, they might have a referendum to say, all right, this is what we're thinking, we've consulted with you, this is what you guys have suggested, we're happy with it. People that are in favour of it, yes or no, they go for a vote. Now, so I had an example, going back to the underground power in my house. Clearly it's a sensitive issue. There was, before we bought the house, they had a council meeting where they invited members of the suburbs, surrounding suburbs, to come and attend and to vote on whether they wanted to go ahead with underground power. So the council was subsidising most of it, but then they said that, well, as a member of this community, it's going to enhance the value of your houses, it's going to make the streets look nicer, and so on. So they had a vote with the members, so you could choose to go down and vote if you wanted this project to go ahead. I think it was very close, about 53% of Como said that they would like that to go ahead, which is great for those people that have the nice big houses and can afford it. But then for myself coming in, I didn't get a say in it. So this is good because there was a decision that was made together. However, it only affected some people. So I guess it was level 3 that they included in this, the vote, because there was people there in our current house, people that we bought it off, probably had an opportunity to say yes or no. But ultimately, for our situation, we were not involved in the vote. We just got told it was happening. Okay, so hopefully you can see how this level is starting to increase the participation. If you have more people that are likely to be involved, you're going to see a better turnout and a more willingness to get involved in this situation. Okay, level 4. Now this is where we're starting to get a really big increase in population participation. So what you'd expect to see here is community members really starting to take initiative and control and pushing for these sort of things to happen. Okay, organisers of the intervention will work with the members of the community to decide what to do and then put in plan and action together. Okay, using experts within the community and of the organisers. So if you think back to the principles of community development, valuing local knowledge, all right, skills, resources, that's where you're likely to see that those experts coming together. And if you consult those people, that's going to be a really good thing. So what we would expect to see in terms of the traffic congestion example is people deciding together on a different, on a way that we can move forward and best resolve traffic congestion within the community. So that might be a combination of bike paths and maybe making it more difficult for cars to get through, so it's more environmentally friendly, so people feel more comfortable to walk around places, lower speed limits and so on. That could be an example there. You might also think of some other examples, and I hope you are thinking of examples where people would be acting together. So think about where the community would get together with experts and then come up with a plan together. It could be things for like tourism, if you're thinking down south. How did the local members plus the local governments or organisations there, how do they work together to then develop these sort of things so that you can have a better outcome for that community? So this is probably getting to the one of the places where the organisers are still going to be the ones that have a strong lead in the project, the program that you are implementing, yet it won't work without the community. You need the community population or the participants to drive those programs So if we're thinking of a program that's addressing disadvantaged people, homeless, possibly people that are in that have drug abuse, alcoholic abuse, you might come together and develop this plan. Right, we're going to set up these soup kitchens, we're going to set up accommodation, give them some education to get them back into the workforce and get them to be valuable members of society. But that's not going to work if it's just the organisers setting it up without the participation. So if they have a joint combination or working together to develop that, and then they rely on the organisers assisting setting it up, but they rely on the community to drive that program and succeed. So without the organisers setting it up, you don't have the program, but without the community participating in it, you won't have people that are actually pushing and running those programs to help try and create that change. So hopefully that makes sense. I got a little bit sidetracked and carried away, but you can see how level 4 is starting to become one where you will see more participation. If we switch to level 5, now this is the top level for supporting community interest. Okay, there's quite a few little points here. So basically this is where you have community conduct their own projects and interventions with the support of external providers. This is where you get the highest level of participation. Okay, the community are the ones that are seeing the issue, addressing the issue, coming up with the plans, running the plans, and doing everything. And then basically you've got the organisers, maybe local governments, investors coming along and saying, "This is a great idea. We want to help support you. You're doing such a great job for the community, and we want to really encourage you to do it more. So here's some extra funding. How can we help? What can we do?" So you've got the community that's driving this from the inside, from their development, and this is where you get those really passionate people, those really invested people who are giving up their time, who see the issues that they want to address, the things we spoke about at the start. This is those people are really pushing and doing a lot of hard work, mostly volunteer work, in order to make these changes. They might set up their own programs. Okay, there might be a not-for-profit business that they've set up so that they can try and address these disadvantaged populations within a community. And then the governments come along, or the investors, and they say, "This is great, you're making such a big difference, how can we help?" And then they try and assist in providing advice or support, grants, government groups that might help, health agencies, okay, aid groups. And that's where you're going to get the most participation. Okay, it's something that's driven. So if you think about, is there a way that you could get a Kennedy, if there was an issue within the school grounds and all the students got together and said, "This is what we're going to do," and they set up their own little program. Perhaps you had someone who's really keen about sponsoring children, or the Transform Cambodia. And they said, right, each class we want to get people raising money in that class to sponsor these kids. And you start doing it, and you see all these different forms developing, all these ways that they can raise money to sponsor children. Then you might see the Kennedy staff, all right, leadership, Mr. Ashby, coming along and going, "Wow, this is such a great initiative. We want to assist you. How can we further or enhance this and support it so it's sustainable and continues on, and it's not just a 1 or 2 year thing?" That would be the optimum. That's where you're going to see most of the community really driving that issue, and then the admin or government, in this case the Kennedy support staff, really assisting you to try and make sure that continues. All right, we've seen a little bit of a shift towards that with the environment sort of concerns. You might notice some recycling bins. Still confuses me why they're lined with plastic bags, but it's a start. And that was really driven from a lot of students, okay, who are really pushing for it. Obviously we've made the Kennedy staff have made the decision to incorporate it, but if there's a real drive and people start organising further and looking after the environment in other ways, maybe a big compost pile somewhere, then we're more likely to go, right, well, the kids are already doing it, we can support them. Okay? If we go back to, I know this is taking a little bit longer, this particular level, but if you go back to the traffic congestion one, the example we've got here is the community can come up with their own plan to reduce traffic congestion by putting bike lanes or bike racks at bus stations, train stations, apply for grants from the government, and it offers support and advice to carry out these projects. That would be where you can see how that traffic congestion could be changed. If there's a real push and drive to get people or change the culture of people driving, get them into riding a bike, being healthier. And you do see this, and hopefully you'll see a lot of this in the Urbanised documentary that you're going to be watching next week, because there's towns that have just completely changed the way that they transport each other or transport themselves. And if anyone's been to the Netherlands, you'll see it there as well, where lots of people do travel and go around in different areas by bike. That's just how they do it. They've got bike lanes, and that's probably more popular than driving cars. Healthier, better for you. Okay, so